I want you to know that this has nothing to do with guilt. I realize that none of the people in this room and none of the people in the other rooms to which I speak every single week in this country somewhere are the ones who themselves, individually, or even collectively, are responsible for the creation of this system of inequality, of privilege, of oppression, of marginalization, and that is not the point. I know we didn't create it, but we are here now, and we inherit the legacy of that which has come before. If you were to become the chief executive officer of a company one day, you would not be able to go in to that company and call your chief financial officer on the phone and say, you know what? I want to look at the books. I want to know how much we have, what our assets are, what's our revenue stream. I want to know all that because I want to take us to new and greater heights. And so you ask the CFO to come in and give you the PowerPoint presentation, the spreadsheets, and she comes in with all of this technology and all of this data and gives you the presentation. Here's our assets. Here's our revenue stream. Here's our outstanding debt. What do you think? You wouldn't be able to look at that CFO and tell her, I really like your presentation. It's great to know we have all these assets and some really amazing income coming in. But the next time I ask you to come and show me that, don't bring me the debt material, all that stuff about what we owe, because see, I wasn't here when y'all ran that up. That was that other guy. That was your last chief executive officer. The debts of those older leaders, those are on them. Have them pay them. I'm going to make use of the assets, oh yes. I'm going to make use of the income, oh yes. But I'm not going to pay the debts because they're not mine. You couldn't do that. You'd be ushered to your car by security. But that's exactly what we do as a society, isn't it? We say, the debts are not ours. Oh, the glory is ours. All the stuff that we've accumulated as a nation and as a people, that's ours. We don't mind living in the past as long as it glorifies us. That's what history books do. That's what July 4th is. We just don't want to own up to the part that's less flattering because we feel guilty, but it isn't about guilt. It's about responsibility. Those two things are not synonymous. If we don't know the difference, we should look it up. When we get tired of living in the funk, in the residue of that which has been given to us by others, with no regard for the impact and the damage that they would do to us and to our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren if and when we are lucky enough to have them. When we get tired of living in that residue, in that funk, and saying enough, then we'll get busy cleaning it, not because we created it, but because we're the only ones left to do the job. And if we don't, we will be back, or our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren will be back in rooms just like this one, in generations to come. But I assure you that if they inherit this legacy, as we have inherited, the stakes will be far greater, the risk will be far greater, and the odds of success and victory at creating justice and opportunity for all will be far more remote. And so if we don't want to see that day come, it is up to us to get busy. It is up to us to take responsibility, not because we are guilty, but because we are here. Thank you very much and take care.
We're going to begin with asking for your first reactions to the film, or things you want to have dealt with right away. And then after a few minutes of this, then we're going to break up into a few smaller groups and have discussions. We have a couple of discussion questions that we've seen the film before that we thought would be good to organize the discussion around. Do that for about a half an hour and then meet back together with what we conclude. So take it away. What kinds of questions or comments do you want to make?
I just thought it was really a very powerful film. And as a person who's white, who's very liberal and progressive, it's very painful, but it's really important that I can understand these points.
Hello, my name is Sunshine, and from Fresno State University. My criminology teacher told me to come up here. But I think where all of this comes about is blacks don't know their history, because I'm 63 years old, and I'm just learning out about black history because I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and there it was, we could sort of like do what we wanted to do. I wasn't born in the South, or I wasn't born in Arkansas, but I'm here to tell you we need to get black history into the school books, and we need to learn about black history, Spanish history, the vast different cultures. And we don't need to learn when we get to college where we got to pay for it. We need to learn down in elementary school, and we need to learn about this.
Well, I am from Arkansas, and I tell you, if you lived in Arkansas in the 60s, you know, you knew segregation, you knew how unfair you were being treated, you knew in the schools, you knew in stores, you knew in fast food places, and we've come a long way, but we're not there yet. You know, we've got a lot to learn and a lot to attend to, because you know, like they were saying, race is not a problem, but race is a problem, and it's going to take, you know, people, us, and of different races to come together and get one goal, and that is to live together and to love one another, you know, as best as we can, and to live with our differences, you know, and it can be done. It just takes the people to do it.
I thought it was interesting, the comment she just made about us having to learn our history. And it's kind of like what he said in the film, that it's so much easier to digest this kind of information when you look at it in historical context. And I think that and it reminds me of the Black in American Part 2 special that I watched the other night, and how mainstream and corporate or upper class America has learned how to articulate our condition to us in a way it's almost like we accept it. And I just think that if more people could learn how to articulate the problem like Mr. Wise did, then we would be much better off.
For 3 years, I did a study on how the San Joaquin Valley remembers the Civil War. And I looked at how it has performed it. It's important, first of all, because school children are bussed in from all over the county. And it is the major budget of the Fresno Historical Society. And it is the largest Civil War living history event west of the Mississippi River. And yet, after looking at what is learned and what is performed and how is history whitened and changed over a 3-year period of time from both students and educators and reenactors and historians, that what Tim Weiss is talking about is literally the social construction of whiteness, this idea of whiteness for contemporary political processes that then feeds into scapegoating, blaming the victim, and into this xenophobia, especially against Mexican Americans, is very, very large right here, you know, in the San Joaquin Valley.